Technology and energy are two sides of the same coin. As Denmark's tech ambassador, Marie Engtoft Meldgaard works to bridge governments, big tech and businesses. Because in tomorrow's energy systems, data, AI and digital infrastructure will be just as critical as wind and solar. Marie Engtoft Meldgaard brings the governance perspective. How regulation, incentives, and citizen trust can accelerate or stall the transition. Her perspective underscores that ambition alone is not enough. The rules of the game must enable ambition to become reality.
Over the past close to a decade, Europe's role in the global technology race has been a very important one of setting the rules of the road. For the past close to 3 decades, new and emerging technologies, the digital world has been largely unregulated. It's come with huge benefits, but also huge cost. And so we saw a Europe that said, we want to be able to regulate how the internet is working. We want to make sure that our children are safe online. We want to make sure that competitors are actually working in competitive markets, that large technology companies cannot dominate the markets entirely. We want to make sure that there are, good provisions on cybersecurity. And so all of this led to a huge wave of European technology regulation. From my vantage point, that is important, but it is not enough. The referee does not win the game. You have to be playing it. And so while fundamentally saying citizens have the right through their democracies to set fundamental red lines and guardrails for how technology is working, because we have seen the very negative effects, that is not enough to win a global race in technology. You have to be building technology. And so we lost 20 years of innovation. We were not the best in software. We're not the best in cloud services. We're not the best now in AI. We need to become a player, not just a referee, which means that we need to invest in entrepreneurs and startups. We need to be able to scale up our technology companies and to be able to offer European technologies not only to ourselves, but also to the world. Technology is fundamentally going to change all aspects of our society and all industries, and that also includes the energy sector. There's a lot of hope and optimism around how artificial intelligence can help us meet the very ambitious goals around the green transition, especially around energy efficiency, grid optimization. The classic examples, maybe you run your dishwasher at night rather than at day because electricity is cheaper. It's in a way to optimize and automate a lot of the things that are today done in not ideal ways. It's the same comes from logistics. Using advanced AI, if we can do maritime routes, logistics optimization in a whole different way. But that is still predominantly an aspiration and a promise and has yet not been materialized. So when we look at artificial intelligence today, right now it is most likely a net negative on the environment. We have the data centers that are powering this incredible AI revolution using the equivalent energy use of Japan. By 2030, it will be equivalent of India. That is a massive, massive consumption, and most of that energy is still not renewable, which means that the AI centers is a huge cost to our environment. And with the rapid development of AI, that is only going to increase. And so we have to find a way to make sure that there are incentives in that industry and for us as consumers in using it in the right way. And then secondly, when you prompt ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude, whichever one you use, that is about 10 times more energy intensive than if you do a traditional search online. Just because you have a hammer, everything does not become a nail. And so I think it's also a question of us when to use AI, recognizing that it is producing a better and more efficient outcome, and when not to use it, because it is also a question of there's a massive energy use behind it, and we need to be mindful in the ways that we're using it. So we already see AI making a significant difference. Looking at forecasting, we know from the Danish Meteorological Institute that they are using and have a partnership with the Danish supercomputer Gefion to radically make forecasting a lot better. And forecasting is not only about you and I knowing what to pack for the beach tomorrow, but it is a very important piece to how we are planning our logistics route, to how we are managing our grid, and to how we're managing the mix of various energy sources. And so in forecasting, it is doing a really, really big impact. I also think if we look a little broader than just from a sort of Danish or Nordic perspectives, globally, how we see AI are tackling big environmental challenges. So forecasting can help small-scale farmers across the African continent have much better information on how to protect their crops if a storm is coming. We know that the combination of AI and satellite data can do forest management, it can do fire detection, freshwater resource management. All of these are ways where AI is making a difference for not only energy, but I think for larger sustainability in the green transition. In the Danish context, we've seen a number of municipalities and grid operators using artificial intelligence to increase up towards 30% and reducing cost up towards 70% by using AI to optimize processes and to optimize how, both from battery storage to grid efficiency and how to energy is delivered to the customers. When we think about the green transition, Europe is a global leader and will continue to be so with very high ambitions towards the green transition, recognizing what a huge challenge it is if we do not solve this, not only here in Europe, but globally. Digitization, harnessing AI has to be part of Europe's answer to this, not only for the sake of Europe, but I think for offering better solutions globally. And so on a practical political level in Brussels, in the European Union, we are thinking about how to connect the two, how to do our green transition with our digital transition and making sure that these two twin transitions are really supporting each other. And that means that AI is not going to magically come tomorrow and create much more energy efficiency, help us on the green transition. You have to do that by design. And so how do you design European technology use and deployment in ways that are efficient? How do you incentivize that? How do you foster that? How do you make it easier for companies to do it? These are some of the questions that Europe will be tackling. There's a new plan coming out in 2026 from the European Commission. And I think most importantly is to signal to member states and to industry and companies, you have to think the digital transition and the green transition as two supporting forces. Thinking about the cybersecurity of our critical infrastructure, including our energy infrastructure, is going to be absolutely critical. We are not living in a theoretical world anymore where we talk about what could be the impacts of a ransomware attack on a water provider. We are already seeing that. There's been a number of cases in Denmark from ransomware attacks, DDoS attacks, broader cyber attacks, and across Europe, the same thing is happening. We are living in what you can call a hybrid war format where these attacks are incredibly being targeted on our critical infrastructure and being part of that. So it is absolutely essential that we not only apply more cybersecurity products, but that we make our fundamental grid and our energy infrastructure cyber secure. That means we have to think about that from the get-go. So when we digitize, whether it is our water supply or energy supply, the grid, the batteries behind it, the governance structures, we have to think cybersecurity because while it might seem benign, you have a small energy company that is just operating to a local sort of municipality at the outskirts of Zealand in Denmark. What would happen if we do not have access to electricity for an hour, for 5 hours? For a day. In a very digitized economy and society like the Danish one, the ramifications would be enormous. And so we have to take it much more seriously. That is being done from the Danish government, that's being done in an EU context, and we're also seeing a heightened awareness from businesses and industries in this. But a lot more has to be done. The big technology companies are at the forefront right now of building the data centers necessary for AI, and that means they're also massive consumers of energy. And when we look at the projections, they will be, times 10, times 100, times 1,000, even just in the near future. It is absolutely important that they continue with a strong collaboration with the energy sector and creating a supply. They are the ones that need to demand renewable energy, and that has to go back in how we supply it to the grid. If we do not have additional renewable energy, that energy consumption is going to cut at a huge cost to the rest of societies. In a state like Virginia, we already now see that data centers are taking up more than 1/4 of the entire energy consumption of the state of Virginia. If that energy consumption is not powered by renewable energy, you can do the math. And that is across the board. And so we need big tech to hold the line. And I think that the small and medium-sized enterprises, not least coming from Europe, who are the customers of the products and services that the big tech companies have, continue to demand that the supply chain around the AI that you are procuring comes with sustainable energy sourcing. Because if we do not create that demand, there's not going to be a supply. And then we end up with a energy sector catering to an AI sector that is going to perpetuate some of the same negative consequences of what we've seen over the past 250 years since the Industrial Revolution began.
Anne-Marie's perspective is shaped by her work at the intersection of technology, governance, and diplomacy. She argues that governance itself is infrastructure. Without clear standards, accountability, and public-private alignment, even the best technologies cannot scale. Her lesson for energy is simple. Regulation must give businesses confidence, citizens benefits, and systems resilience. The same principles that are now shaping AI and digital governance. Interoperability, trust, and accountability must shape energy too. That's how policy becomes the infrastructure that makes transition possible.